I'm Lynn, and I want to talk about the state of education now as I see it as a teacher. So here's some girls that I taught in San Diego, technology class. They look pretty engaged, they look pretty excited. You look at them, you think, I wonder what would be engaging around technology to girls this age. Let's see if I can get this thing to go. So this is the question they're trying to answer. Find a musician who's not, or that's not a pig. So this is who they found. So you think that they might have used maybe a search engine, a wiki. They might have learned how to consume some of our technology. Well, actually, in the class that I was teaching, they used this method. This is T-SQL. This is a database language. They were doing a query against the cloud. They were learning how to be data scientists. They're 12 years old. After an hour of progressively more difficult SQL queries, many of them came back at lunch because they wanted to do more. Here's some more girls that were taught by teachers that I trained in Seattle. So these girls are pretty engaged. They're a little bit older. They're 14. They're working, as we always work in our classes, in pairs. And these girls were working on a project that can be a lot of fun. Their requirements were to create an animation. So they had the English requirements that are shown on the left, right up there. And there was the output for the animation. So many times you'd think, again, they'd be consumers of some type of a product, maybe an animation studio or something like that. But that wasn't the case with these girls. These girls were using Small Basic, which is a version of Visual Basic in the Small Basic editor. And they were enthusiastically learning how to write a for loop and writing their first executable program within 10 minutes of sitting down to work together. It's really common when my group of volunteers and teachers works with new programmers that, again, they come back during lunch because they really want more. They really want to know how to make the animation do X, Y, and Z. We hear stories from people, they go home and they program for 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. They keep going. But girls don't do math, do they? They don't do programming. A really long time ago, a girl I know heard this, was told this from her math teacher, and that girl was me. I grew up in West Fargo, North Dakota, so I'm a long way from home, about as far as you get, New York City. This is a true story, I am the child of 2 farmers, one of which only went to the 6th grade. College wasn't a big thing in my family. So when I excelled in math, I was very discouraged. And I heard, honey, girls don't do math. I'm not the only girl to hear this. But I'm here to say, not only do they do math, they become data scientists. This is my 3rd book, which is really big in China. Thank you. So we've heard a lot of talk from the speakers about the importance of teaching our children to be ready for the jobs that will be there when they're grown. And I know something about this because I work for Microsoft. I am a data scientist. I'm also a mom. My daughter, in fact, is the next speaker. And when I joined Microsoft as a full-time employee 4 years ago, one of the conditions of my joining was that I would be able to personally work on this problem of helping our kids to get more ready. Because I saw that the classes that were being offered, no fault of the teachers, were more focused on consumption of technology rather than creation. So if you'll switch to the animation. So as I'm talking, you can see this is one of the courses that we involve the kids in the first 2 hours of working. And what it is, it teaches a core programming principle of refactoring in a very joyful way. You can see as we go along, the kids progressively work with the code, and this is running actually in a web browser, just so you guys can see how it works. And they change the code line by line, and then they run the code so they can get the immediate feedback and get a visual understanding, which is extremely engaging and joyful and results in the kids just continuing to program. We call this variation, and this is one part of our core recipe library. Now, how did I come to write this kind of courseware? Well, when I joined Microsoft, there was a program called DigiGirls that I got involved with. And no fault to them, because a lot of big companies are really trying to make change. But frankly, they're not always really successful. Like many large companies, this program sometimes had more style than substance, more of a PR opportunity than an actual learning opportunity. Again, no fault of the people running it, just looking at the resources they had. So what I decided to do is focus my time on writing curricula that would be engaging to the girls. I have 10 years experience as an adult classroom trainer, and I try to apply that. I'm happy to say that the courseware that I've written is now used in more than 50% of Microsoft's global DigiGirls programs. So it is possible for one person to really make change. But as I went along, I felt that writing curricula for a one-day course wasn't enough. And I was fortunate that I was introduced to somebody from the open source community. Again, I'm not making this up. I met a blue-haired man carrying a MacBook, coding in Java, who was teaching kids Java, volunteering in San Diego. And that blue-haired man and I decided that we would write courseware for children. And if you switch back to the slides, we started a group which we call Teaching Kids Programming. We're in the process of incorporating as a 501c3. That blue-haired man and I fell in love, which helps. And we now have a courseware library that you can take today and start teaching kids to program with. Kids ages 10 and up. Proud to say we have 20 lessons that start with object properties and methods and go all the way up to model view controller, event-driven development, and even artificial intelligence. We have a tic-tac-toe game that shows artificial intelligence. This library is fully available and completely free. It's at www.teachingkidsprogramming.org, and yes, you should tweet that. The library, as shown up here, has 3 sections. Home is the philosophy of our courseware. It's based not only on incremental recipes, but also on the best of adult programming. It's based on agile programming practices, pair programming, sprints, rapid feedback. In fact, that blue-haired man is with me, not physically here, but he's actually in the financial district, teaching programmers at one of the biggest finance companies in New York, agile programming. We've applied the best of the adult programming methodologies to teaching children. Kids is where the lessons are. The kids can do the lessons on their own if they want to, and there is value in that. But the greater value is in us, the teachers. We have video-based training, again, all available on this site for free, that you can take out starting tomorrow. And I hope you do, because we need more programmers. Programming is boring, right? It's boring. This girl's a programmer. She likes it. It's boring. It's not boring. It's not boring. Try it out. You teach a kid to program, even if they're not going to be a programmer. The great side benefit is their problem-solving ability, particularly around math, improves dramatically. And this is very close to home. My own daughter's standardized math test scores have gone up 15 points in 2.5 years. And the only thing I can attribute this to, because she's in very great schools with very great teachers, is her involvement in this program. So we use, actually, 3 different types of technologies. Sort of generally, we use a programming environment. We use Small Basic. We also have a port of it in Java. We use a database technology based on SQL Azure, which can also be used for SQL Server or MySQL, so any relational database. And we use visual programming to introduce even younger children to programming concepts. We've taught with Microsoft Odoo and Storytelling Alice. And we have curricula around all these different domains for free on the TKP website. Again, the value in our courseware comes from the courseware plus the application through the Agile methodology. In fact, we're invited speakers to the National Agile Conference next week, as selected as innovators in using Agile teaching methods to teach children. So how do we do it? In our classrooms, we select peers as proctors. So peer-based teaching, and this is the visual teaching environment. We have 2 teachers, we pair teach, and we have a ratio of 1 proctor for every 10 students or every 10 pairs. We have also created a utility called the virtual proctor, which helps the instructors to monitor the progress of all the pairs. It takes a screen snapshot every time the kids hit execute so you can see where they're at. We teach frequently. This isn't just a hobby. In the last 18 months, I've personally taught more than 1,000 students in 18 months. This is a roundori, another Agile technique where you switch on task. This is, again, another technique where we've got a game off, where girls are creating worlds. Very interesting research. I invite you, if you've not read it, Lynn Langit, who wrote Storytelling Alice, her master's thesis was on how girls learn to program. Very useful. Lynn Langit. Involving the programming community is another thing that we've had great success with. In our day jobs, both Llewellyn and I, my co-founder, work with developers. This is in Phoenix, Arizona, where a programmer came to one of our events and he wanted to film, this was so awesome, when his son executed his first program successfully. He wanted to film the event, kind of like when a kid walks. It's just awesome. We've made this as easy as possible for all of you. You can run it off a USB drive. Kids can take it home, and they have all the lessons there. So we ran this in Irvine, California, girls pairing. This is a really common thing. They want to take it home. They get excited. We ran it in San Diego. And we ran it in Mission Viejo. We thought, well, you know, we've heard a lot of talk about local. How do we scale this thing? We're only 2 people. Well, we started blogging about it. We blogged, and this woman over here read our blog. She's from Denmark, and she said, come on over. So we went over, we trained her, we co-taught in Danish, and lo and behold, the Danish National School System asked us for our first-year curricula. We said, we're 2 people, and we have full-time jobs. We'll get back to you. We're working on that. These guys are Korean teachers, came to Irvine, California to learn about our stuff. Small Basic is localized into Korean, but we didn't have Korean lessons. The power of Twitter. Went out to Twitter and I said, I need my recipes translated into Korean. 30 minutes later, got a response. Still don't know who the person was, translated all of our recipes into Korean for us. Power of social media to scale. This is really hard to see, I know, but this was the best camera we could find. This is Lusaka, Zambia. I do some other volunteering in my spare time. Yes, I know, I don't sleep much. I go to Africa every year and for another project. And while I was in Zambia, I went to the Roma Girls' School, and they had no working computers. So we used the Rondori style with 60 girls, and they've started a Digi Girls Club. They're teaching each other. The courseware scales, the courseware works anywhere. We have programmers in Zambia. It's awesome. This is Durban, South Africa. This is how the girls looked after programming for 5 hours. A lot of fun. This guy right here made the mistake of coming up to me at a technical conference saying, I'd like to help. I said, good, get in the cab. He's now teaching every Saturday, these girls in Johannesburg. So 2 people can change the world. This is where teaching kids programming is taught. I want one big square over the whole earth. In fact, to that end, in 2 weeks, I'm going to Australia and New Zealand. Yeah, I'm bringing my daughter. We're going to teach in the schools. So, teaching kids programming, there's the blue-haired man. His name is Llewellyn Falco. There's his Twitter. There's me. There's my Twitter. And I have 1 second left. So thank you very much.